Welcome to another show of Russ on Flowers. I'm your host, Russ. We're back at JJC with Professor T, our new addition. Today we're going to be talking about corsage work and boutonniere work. So we have some stuff laid out on the table, some typical stuff that it takes to put a corsage together. We have Italian ruscus. We have some daisies, mini carnations, some, I call them kermits,
yep.
Right?
Button mums.
We have some decorative gems. What is that?
Bling.
Bling, some bling bling. And scissors, knife, pen, so you can draw on stuff. This is floral tape. All this stuff is available at russwholesaleflowers.com. Okay, we can get it all there. Ribbon. We have glue, something that a lot of florists have gotten into in the hot one.
Maybe past 3-4 years, it's really been a big deal. Yes.
Okay, so
love this stuff.
It's faster, right? It's cleaner.
And it's one of our episodes. We'll show
you know
how
to
use
it,
the cold
right?
glue. Yes, exactly.
You know
if
how
you
to
know
use
how
it?
to use it.
Right. Pins of various colors, all that stuff. russwholesaleflowers.com. So we're gonna put together a corsage.
Yes.
First, before we start, can you talk to me about wires and gauge?
Absolutely.
Talk to me about gauge wires.
I typically will use a 24 gauge wire or a 26 gauge wire. The higher the number, the thinner the wire. Right. And you'll notice I got the one low, the rogue wire that's in here. That's an 18 gauge, and really don't use that with fresh because you don't need to. You can use a thinner. And the reason you want to use the thinnest possible is because you don't want to add any bulk to your corsages. And I've kind of demonstrated that with these little guys right here. This is a 26 gauge wire. We use half of a wire through the mini carnation, half of a wire bent down about a third of the way, and if I can hold it up at the end of the wire, then that's a heavy enough gauge wire. Same is true with our little button mum. It will hold that, a 26 gauge, a third of the way bent through this will hold that flower up.
What you do is you just pierce the flowers. Pierce the flowers.
I'll show you.
Through this one's through the top. You push this one through the stem, and then it came down around, right?
Absolutely.
We'll do a demonstration.
We're going to take a half wire, and we go right through the bottom of the stem, out the top, about a third of the way down, and make a great big shepherd's crook. Push it back in. It's not important that no big deal that it didn't go right back down to the center of the stem. And then I use my floral tape. I just want to hide the center of that. I use my floral tape, and I start right up underneath the flower head. And this is impregnated with wax to keep the flowers from drying out so quickly, but in order to get it to work, you have to pull it until it changes to that whitish color.
It becomes more adhesive too as you pull it,
a little bit more sticky when it's that, and then you just twist it on there.
Twist it all the way down.
Yes. But then the other flower here is a daisy, and the daisy, this one is a 26 gauge, but you can see that 26 gauge, the larger the flower, it's just not going to hold it. You need a higher gauge. Okay. We're using 5 little mini carnations, and we're kind of lining these guys up. You always want to go smallest to biggest, and same with our daisies. The smallest ones are going to be at the top of the corsage, and these larger ones are going to be more towards the focal point. So I'm going to pick up my small mini carnation and one of my little daisies, and I'm going to place the daisy, kind of step it down a little bit from that first flower, and I'm going to add a little bit of our baby's breath. And I'm not going to wire this. I'm just going to rip off some small pieces and add a little piece of baby's breath. That's a popular flower. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of tape, just enough to hold the flower stems together. Right. And where that little flower stem is, and I'm going to use my knife and cut that. Whoops, we've magnetized here somehow. We're going to cut that off so that it doesn't add bulk. And then I'm going to add another little mini carnation. I'm going to fluff it open. And that's going to be placed a little bit lower than the white carnation. And then I'm going to place another white daisy. White daisy. And then I'm going to place another red carnation off to the sides, kind of still stair-stepping it down. And now I'm going to tape from one point, the binding point. This little spot here is where your corsage will be balanced. At that particular point, I'm also going to add my little bow that I pre-made with some little glitzy ribbon. And I'm going to add, so that's kind of tucked in up underneath those 2 last flowers. Again, I'm going to take some small pieces of baby's breath and just hold it into position. And you'll see what we'll do with that glue in the end. If we've got a naked spot, we can add those flowers with our glue. So I'll stick another little piece here, hang on to it. Take a little piece of tape again, hold on to it. Just enough to hold the stems together. That's what it is. And then I'm going to take my next my next white daisy, and that's going to be placed up in this baby's breath area here, but I'm going to put a severe bend on its stem. I want that little guy to really tuck up inside of there and still come from that same binding point. And my last flower is going to be, actually I have two more, don't I? One that's really bent. You can kind of see here, really bend that at about a 45-degree angle, and this little guy is going to be bent at about a 45-degree angle off to the side. So what you're looking at is very linear, very flat, very skinny profile on here, and we're going to bind these together now with that floral tape. But the beauty of them being on wires is I can push them out of my way, push them up, and then I can, again, tape at that binding point. A little bit of tape. And I'm not going to put any more baby's breath on there because I'm going to show you how to use the cold glue. And now I'm going to work my ribbon through the corsage so it becomes a part of the flowers instead of just one big glob of bow. And I think these are just a hair long. I'm going to cut them on an angle. And then I really like Italian ruscus, which is a real shiny foliage. I'm going to take off some of those lower leaflets, and I'm going to add those to the back side of my corsage, kind of to provide a backdrop. Again, Italian ruscus, remove the lower leaflets so I get a nice stem to hang on to, and I'm spacing that all the way around. 3 little pieces all the way around, and again, I'll show you what this looks like after I tape.
So you keep taping over the same section?
Same spots, same binding point. And you'll see I've got some loose stems here. I'm just going to take and chop those babies off. And then my final backdrop for my corsages are always my little silk ivy leaves or silk rose leaves, because if any of these flowers have any sap that gets on somebody's dress, they're not very happy with that. So we're going to put these on to prevent any discoloration of someone's clothing. But they're on wires and they are fabric, and I just bend them in a 5-point Chrysler star on the back side.
How many do you usually use?
I use 5, tucked up way up at that binding point, and you're going to see on the back side what this does. It helps hide my mechanics. It creates a really nice area where you can't see inside how the whole thing was put together. It hides my binding point. I'm going to tape it. Again. And then I'm going to cut off these scragglers. I got a whole bunch of wires down here that don't have any tape. They're from the foliage, from the artificial foliage that we put on, and I'll use my wire cutters, cut those off so that it reduces some of the bulk. And then any of my wires that didn't get floral tape on it, I'm going to take the ends of those off. And then I'm going to retape over that little cut mess that we have there so we don't snag anybody's blouse.
Right.
And then, you know, no good teacher is without a red pen. So that's what the red pen is for. Right. We're going to roll up the ends of this to give them kind of a tendril effect. And if any of the exposed wires come through, then we want to make sure we cut that off again to prevent snagging someone's clothing. And then oftentimes after you've completed this, you may find a naked spot inside of your corsage that could have stood a little bit more filler material or accent material like the baby's breath. And what we're going to do then is use our cold glue. Whoops. We're going to use our cold glue to add that. When you're looking at that, Russ, where do you think it kind of looks like it has a naked spot?
I'd probably roll something right there.
A little something right there. So I agree. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a small little cluster of baby's breath, cut it, take our cold glue, and I'm working over a mat where the glue doesn't stick. It's the best thing. Put a healthy dose of glue at the end of that, and then I just pull my ribbon out of the way, or whatever happens to be the way, push it in there, and it will adhere instantly.
Summarize our show. Corsages. Did a lot of stuff with mini carnations, daisies, some bling bling. We got some million star chip. Stay tuned for other episodes and other shows coming with Professor T. We're going to be out here more often. Thanks for coming to the show. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.